Okay, we are now in week 2 of Cerul's 25% discount on all Cerul products during the month of March. Again, Beth and I have taken Cerul products for 72 months now because they work, and we wholeheartedly support them. Just use code SAVE25 at checkout. Just click the link below to see for yourself. Good evening. I'm still reporting on monetary reform. Before we go on with how monetary reform could eliminate our national debt in just a few years without major market booms and busts, a gentleman made some comments on our last report that anyone will hear about as interest in monetary reform grows. These are meme questions, in some cases devised and repeated with enough frequency that most people believe they must be true, when they are usually false. Now let's get these memes addressed tonight and then move on to the actual way monetary reform could be implemented in a way that an incoming President Trump could endorse. First of all, what is a meme? I never really knew until tonight. According to Surrey, a meme is an idea, behavior, or style that spreads by means of imitation from person to person within a culture and often carries symbolic meaning representing a particular phenomenon or theme. Well, that's a pretty good definition for this occasion. So here is the comment posted yesterday on Rumble. I won't give the guy's name. Quote, I will disagree in part 1. Article 1, Section 8, Congress shall coin money and regulate the value thereof. Federal Reserve isn't Congress. Actually, if you understand that the definition of coin money during the Revolutionary period did not mean solely metallic coins. Coin was used as a verb to refer to anything that was deemed to be money. For example, at one point, leather coins were also money and referred to as being coined. So the creation of paper dollars could also be brought into being by being coined. However, we absolutely agree that Congress and Congress alone has been given the power of money creation and value regulation. As Professor Irving Fisher of Yale University wrote in his 1936 mini-book, 100% Money and the Public Debt, one of the primary attributes of sovereignty is the monetary function. Professor Frank D. Graham points out that President John Adams considered any private issue of money a monstrosity and fraud upon the public. Unfortunately, the framers of our Constitution were divided on the issue, mainly influenced by Alexander Hamilton, who was an employee of the very bank which President Andrew Jackson, 53 years later, was finally able to crush. Both Presidents Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson agreed that bank-created money was an evil perpetrated on the unknowing American public, which fleeced the poor to the benefit of the rich. Jackson's battle against bank-created money is legendary in American history, and his victory over the bank is forever celebrated by his statue being the only one facing the White House. But the resulting deep division over the government being able to issue sovereign money versus banks stealing it away led to the Constitution not being specific on the issue. Fisher continues, in the very first article of our Constitution, it is written, Congress shall have power to coin money and regulate the value thereof. As has been seen, we have neglected this provision by letting banks usurp a government function. Article 1, Section 10. No state shall accept anything but gold and silver as payment in debt. America tried the paper money to fund the Revolutionary War, shortly went bankrupt. If France hadn't given us a huge injection of money, a huge loan also, munitions and troops, the Revolutionary War would never have gone to fruition. Therefore, paper money was forbidden in our Constitution, as seen above in those two articles. If that's true, why would the next paragraph in the Constitution add a different definition for the source of our national money? Because the states were printing or coining their own state money. However, the paper dollars printed in Virginia many times did not have the same value as those printed or coined in Vermont. The Continental Congress went through several different ways of trying to harmonize the value of these different state monies, but it turned out to be nearly impossible. Why? In the first place, instant communications, which we enjoy today, did not exist in the mid-1700s. It could take years for some New York money to make it down to North Carolina. In the meantime, the relative value could have changed drastically. But in addition, especially while the Revolutionary War was ongoing, the British were practicing economic warfare as well by sending bales of counterfeit money on their trading ships over to our country. This counterfeit state money would be spread up and down the fledgling nation, causing financial havoc. Some of the oldest roads, now the U.S. routes that still exist today, like Route 1, were improved and expanded to facilitate this massive trade in counterfeit American money. That's why the famous George Washington quote spoke of a wagon load of money can barely buy a wagon load of provisions. That was towards the end of the Revolutionary War. If states were allowed to continue to create their own money, a stable U.S. currency could not have been established. The value of gold and silver were already established by free market principles, but could be counterfeited when transferred into notes of deposit. That means that unscrupulous gold dealers could and did print up deposit receipts to supposedly ensure the safety of their offices, later to be called banks. However, the problem was that the goldsmiths would print up more deposit notes than they had deposits in their banks. They were literally writing, printing, or coining their own money.
A gold-only money system would not be the answer to our economic problems because it wouldn't solve the core problem. Who controls the quantity? Remember, it doesn't matter what backs the money. All that matters is who controls the quantity. We're going to look at this quantity issue and see how the first Norman king of England solved the problem. 1,000 years ago in England, the goldsmiths, the bankers of that day, discovered that instead of lending out their gold coins, they could lend out receipts, IOUs for their gold coins. Then they learned that they could lend out way more receipts than they actually had gold to cover them, and no one would ever be the wiser. When they lent out lots of their gold IOUs, the economy boomed. When they called in their loans, the money supply shrank and a depression set in. Then goldsmiths discovered that by acting in concert, this manipulation of the money supply could force the king to do their bidding. It's the same today. When bankers control the quantity of money, they always end up controlling the politics of the nation as well. It's the same today. When bankers control the quantity of money, they always end up controlling the politics of the nation as well. That's the definition of plutocracy, rule by the rich. Now, the opposite of plutocracy is a democratic republic, where the voters elect politicians to represent their wishes. Democratizing this political power is the very basis of our freedom. In 1100 AD, King Henry I of England got tired of the goldsmiths manipulating the money supply for their own political ends. Henry understood that spreading power out not only gave more freedom to the common citizen, but made the nation stronger, less susceptible to tyrants. Of course, King Henry wasn't elected, but he would be the first English king to lay the foundations of democracy. First, he took the money power out of the hands of the goldsmiths by creating a unique form of government-issued, debt-free money called tally sticks. Tally sticks did not represent any quantity of gold or any other commodity. They were simply polished sticks of wood issued by the king, which he declared to be good for the payment of taxes. That made tally sticks just as good as any other form of money.
The idea with the tally stick was that you cut notches in a piece of wood, and these notches were of a prescribed size dimension. And if you look at this one, you can see it's got 1,000-pound notches. So
there's 6 notches times 1,000 pounds each. Is that the way it is?
That's exactly it.
So that's a 6,000-pound tally stick. This side is called the
stock. This was kept by the person who made the loan, or paid the money in.
I see.
And this is the foil.
And the idea was splitting the stick down the middle was to prevent counterfeiting, because of course a stick splits uniquely down the middle.
Because when the debt was repaid, the two pieces were put together, and if they didn't tally, something was awry.
The longer half of a tally stick was called the stock, the root word for stocks and bonds or stockholders. For centuries, the supporters of gold-backed money have belittled tally sticks as an unimportant form of fiat money, one not backed by gold or silver. Some authors even claim that tallies weren't a real money system because they were only used for very large transactions, but that's just not the case.
And was this the common size of tally sticks?
In the Middle Ages, the average size was reckoned to be the length from the tip of his thumb to the tip of his forefinger, quite short. Because if you think of it in terms of this is 6,000 pounds. That means it's a huge, huge sum of money.
So the wider the spacing, the larger the
larger the amount. But it was a prescribed distance. It was an inch, and I think half an inch for hundreds and a quarter of an inch for tens. And then it became little lines drawn across with a saw.
So it is clear that tally sticks were used for smaller denominations too, and worked well as an effective debt-free money system for 726 years. Without the crushing weight of debt-based money, England flourished into the greatest power on earth for many centuries. At their peak, it has been estimated that 95% of English money was in the form of tally sticks. Compare that to today, where the only debt-free government-issued money is in the form of coin, about 3% of the money supply in the UK and far less in the US.
Gold-only money systems don't work. There is not a single example in the last 2,000 years where it has worked for the common man, the middle class. Yes, gold works great if you are rich. Yes, gold-only money systems can impose spending discipline on the government, but at what cost? The cost of the very rich controlling the politics of the nation, because the very rich have always been able to control the quantity of gold. Gouverneur Morris, one of the authors of the Constitution, lamented the root cause of the problem during the debate at the Constitutional Convention.
The rich will strive to establish their dominion and enslave the rest. They always did, they always will, if we do not by the power of government keep them in their proper spheres.
Our lesson from the pages of history is he who controls the quantity of money controls the nation. The money power is the most basic freedom. Do you want unelectable bankers in control of the most important power in a nation, the money power? Or do you want to have some say through your elected government? Government isn't perfect, but it's all we've got. This is nothing less than a choice between serfdom or freedom. In England, gold coin continued to circulate as a competing currency with tally sticks, but the vast majority of English money was in the form of tally sticks. This system of debt-free, government-issued money lasted for 726 years and gave rise to the greatest empire in history. The tally stick system remained in operation until the founding of the Bank of England in 1694. From that point on, most of England's money was borrowed into existence. All the tally sticks were burned, and the British Empire began its slow, steady decline as the interest payments on the new national debt began to pile up. By the mid-1700s, the interest payments were so great that 75% of British taxes went towards paying just the interest on their debt. This is why England started forcing unreasonable taxes on all her colonies, including America, and that led to the American Revolution. In our next report, we'll look at the question, if we give those rascals in Congress the money power, they'll just print too much of it. This is a reasonable question, which we'll address in the next report. But the short answer is, yeah, but at least we aren't going into debt to do it.
In the United States, this counterfeiting of metallic money was solved by casting in the tiny little ridges around the edges of U.S. metal coins. Number 3, America tried the paper money to fund the Revolutionary War, shortly went bankrupt. This was not because a paper currency was inherently dangerous or evil, other than the fact that the United States was in a war where there were no rules of war, anything goes. Number 4, therefore paper money was forbidden in our Constitution as seen above in those 2 articles. No, it was not, and still is not forbidden. It is and has been approved by the U.S. Constitution for all debts and transactions in this mighty nation. I'm still reporting from just outside the pinnacle of world freedom. Good day, and may the blessings of the Holy Spirit guide you all always.